feel like a celebrity almost. But I also realized that I'm standing in between you and lunch. But thanks to the speaker before me for supplying you with candy, I guess. But we want to make sure you're alert. So let's start with some polls, right? If you could be kind enough to take these polls. And if you are playing buzzword bingo, hope you have heard GTM, go-to-market. And I'm going to be hitting a lot more of the buzzwords as we move on. Who takes care of GTM in your organization? I love the fact that it's product marketing, 86%. That's huge. Because when you talk to sales, they're like, oh, we have a GTM leader who's going to take care of this. So I love the fact that product marketing owns this. So one step down. So let's go to the next survey. So when I say routes to market, what comes to your mind? So what do you think is the main route to market for your company? I haven't listed everything. There are going to be many. If you're in B2B, it's going to be direct sales. It's going to be your channel. It's going to be maybe it's product-led growth. You have freemium options. I see that it's mostly direct sales, as expected. We have some channel. E-commerce, like that's the growth marketing piece where they're actually trying to open it up where the products can be self-served by the customers. So you have e-commerce, and then there's also other partners with whom you can do go-to-market with. Direct sales, 57%. OK, let's move on to the next slide, next poll. Oh, e-commerce just jumped up to 6%. OK, what defines success for your GTM strategy? So when I started in a new company, the first question I asked was, who does GTM? The answer has always been, it depends. And what do you rate the success of GTM? It depends. Because there are so many attributes. Again, it's not an exhaustive list. You want to say revenue. You want to, maybe you're a free product, right? Maybe like Facebook, it is user acquisition. Or you're just looking at the growth that your company is undergoing year over year. There could be other metrics. It's not exhaustive. And again, there's no right answer. It is all the above. You want to make sure that everything grows along with revenue. OK, so moving on, let's dive into the slide itself. So I'm going to be able to, can I move to the slides? Awesome, thank you. Just to level set, I know most of you know what is go-to-market, but we want to just start with level set in case you're entering into product marketing. So it is a strategic plan, which is actually trying to launch a product, a service, or even your newfound company into the market. We are in the Bay Area, we are in the Silicon Valley, so I want to add that it could be a venture that you're trying to launch into the market, right? And I'm in cybersecurity, if you guys didn't pay attention. But as cybersecurity specialists, we always want to start with numbers as to what could go wrong. Not to freak you out, but hopefully it freaks you out. 95% of new products fail in the first 1 year. Why is that? I don't have my notes here, but I'm going to spitball now. It could be inflexibility of timing, right? You didn't time the launch properly. For example, I worked in an automotive company. What happened was they were trying to improve energy efficiency, and then the electric car started entering the market. Maybe it is product issues. Let's just blame it on the product issues all the time, right? It is always the product. It's never the marketing. But that's not true. It could be the marketing, right? I tell my team, you could build the best product in the market. It could solve all the pain points for your customers. If they don't know where to find it, they are not going to buy it, right? You want to make sure you have a rock-solid marketing plan that puts the product or services in your customers' hands. And then the next thing we want to make sure is that the policy that if you build it, they will come. You hear it often, right? You build the product, it will sell by itself. That's not true either, right? You want to make sure that you put it in the hands of the customer, and you need to have a rock-solid GTM plan. I can actually give an example of Segway, right? When they introduced Segway, they were so stoked. They ordered like 25,000 units, and it was actually just sitting there. It was not sold. So the other thing that we want to talk about is when you are constructing your GTM plan, what are the main features that you want to answer for the questions, right? So let's see. You would have heard this mostly during this conference, or during this conference, you'll hear it again and again. GTM is a very broad topic. I'm not pretending that I'm going to answer every single thing. But when you're constructing your plan, you want to make sure you answer the question, who is your buyer persona? I know the speaker before me talked about demystifying it or simplifying it, but it is critical. When I was consulting with a data analytics company, the first question I asked was, who's your buyer persona? Everybody. I said, it cannot be everybody. Who is your buyer persona? They said, anyone who uses data is our persona. Again, people use data. You use email, you have your shared folders, you use data, but you're not their customer, right? And then on probing again and again, we found out that it is the IT vendors who are actually building data warehousing products. So you see how your buyer persona went from everyone to one particular silo or a custom target market. The next thing you want to answer is, what are you trying to sell? Not the features, not the capabilities, but what is the pain point you're trying to solve for your customers? Why should they care about your product? What is the unique proposition, unique selling proposition of that product? And lastly, assuming you know the buyers, you know where to sell them, how do you reach them? That's where the routes to market play a critical role. You want to make sure the customers are able to find your products, they're able to understand how it will benefit them, decide if they really need to buy the product. That's where they will map to the customer buyer journey, right? Do I really need this product? Does it really help me do my job better? And then finally, how do I buy the product? Are there promotions? Are there discounts? Is it a very competitive market where I have to make sure that I really have a very solid pricing strategy to make it attractive to the customers? So again, when you think about these questions, a bunch of other questions now pop up. And what are they? It doesn't end here. As I said, GTM is a very long strategy. You again want to answer the question, why? Why would your target customers want to buy these products? Is it something that's unique, disruptive? Is it paradigm shifting? Or is it something like a price play? Like, are you doing something cheaper? For example, you have an antivirus product, right? Imagine that I come from CrowdStrike and I say, I have a product that will do it better for you. Why would they switch? What's the cost of switching? The couple of last questions are timing. Timing is everything. You want to make sure when you launch the product is very, very critical. You want to have a first mover advantage, but if you don't have it, at least you want to make sure that you hit the market before your competition gets there. And the last decision to make is, where are you going to focus your marketing and sales strategy plans? How are you going to enable your sellers to reach the target audience? What is your marketing mix going to look like to make sure you hit your target audience? So these are the 6 questions, and we'll repeatedly touch upon these themes as we move through the session. So moving on. And throughout this example, I'm going to use a fake company. It is an amalgamation of all the companies I consulted and worked for. We'll call it Acme Cloud. Again, I don't want to get into trouble because I'm in cybersecurity space. Just want to make sure that we hit upon the different strategy pieces, right? You've seen the Ansolve matrix. So there are different styles, right? One, do you want to take a new product to a new audience? Do you want to take a new product to your existing audience? That's your cross-sell model. Or are you trying to move into different geographies? You heard about mid-market. You heard about enterprise. Are you trying to go up the market or down the market? And finally, are you trying to sell a brand new product to a brand new audience? Think M&A, right? You have an acquisition happening. Now you open it up to a bunch of new customers. How do you sell it to them? So I've done the cardinal rule of breaking product marketing agenda. Like, it is going to get really wordy from here onwards, so buckle up. So the GTM strategy, 7-element activation plan. Again, keep this at the back of your mind when you as product marketeers are working through the session. Your company might be small, big, but you're going to follow these plans as I lay them out. The first one, again, always starts with the target audience. Always, right? Whom are you selling to? Is it another channel person, or is it a brand new customer? Is it enterprise? And who are the buyer personas within that? Next, the unique value proposition. We touched on this. What are you trying to sell and say about your product or offering? Routes to market. I'm very passionate about this one because direct selling will get you so far, but channel and routes to market will really amp up the scale and amplify your reach in the markets. For example, if I want to take my product and sell it in, say, other geographies, I want to make sure that I have my routes to market set up right. Communication plan. How do you make sure the customers know exactly what you're trying to say and where you're trying to reach them? What are their watering holes? What are their conferences they're attending? And where do they seek out information that fits in with their journey? Pricing strategy. How many of you do pricing for your company? I love pricing because it is one way to quickly get inputs as to whether your product is working or not. And last but not least, operational readiness. Product marketing, as you saw, you handle GTM, but you'll be working with so many other teams, legal, finance, HR maybe, and your IT departments. And then you have the sales and product management, other marketing functions. You want to make sure you have that readiness when you're thinking about launching your product. Finally, the hard part of all is success. How do you define success? How do you measure it? How do you make sure that you've hit your targets? So let's look one by one. I might not spend a lot of time, but again, happy to answer any questions. So the first thing you want to do is identify your buyer persona. Yes, we have also done the workshops that G3 mentioned. We actually went with Sirius, and we spent a lot of time building our personas. And what happened finally was, when we researched it, we want to make sure that you validate them. Validating is an important piece that many people don't remember, but validating is talking to analysts, talking to your customers, talking to your inside sales reps, and trying to really make sure that the personas hit the market. It wasn't me, sorry. So these were some of the sample personas we came up with. So the one thing that stood out was 6 personas you might think is a lot, but actually when you think about it, it is different functions that these personas fulfill. They're not just the buyer, they could be an influencer. They could be a ratifier. Like, for example, we found out that procurement and the CFO office were actually trying to question, why are we buying products and what problem does it solve? And the other decision maker was our head of IT. So from our sample example, this was the list of personas we came up with, and these were the battle cards we actually built. We started building up persona cards that talked about what are the problems, what are the solutions, or why are they shopping, where are they shopping, and things like that to really hit our sales playbooks. Then the next thing is, now you have your buyer persona. This is the fun part, because I see a lot of product marketers get excited. I want to write the messaging document. Let's start with the messaging document. But in order to write the messaging document, you need to understand the market. You need to understand what it is that is unique that solves the customer's pain points. And you need to also understand how the product works, because you need to now backtrack it and convert it or translate it into something that the customer understands. So it's really critical that you get the messaging and the value proposition right. In fact, the competitive differentiation really stands out. Again, you want to make sure that by saying that these feature sets are better, is it really better, or is it something that you can communicate to the customers in terms of why the old way does not work? You're trying to do loosening of status quo. You're trying to make sure that they switch. You're trying to make sure that you can cross-sell some product, right? They have something, you want to make sure they buy more. So at Acme Cloud, we came up with a positioning outline. Again, always thinking about the brand. What is the brand experience that you want to push to the customer? So we start with that. Then we go through our 50-word, 100-word exercise, building your positioning statements, making sure you tie in the audiences. And the final thing you also want to do is have these messaging pillars. Because when you think of your marketing team and the campaigns they are running, they want to be able to piece apart each of these pillars and run campaigns. Maybe it is to hit different customers, different target audiences. So you want to give them those options, right? For example, at Acme Cloud, what we did was, hey, everyone is adopting digital transformation. You need to think about moving to the cloud. Great. but maybe they're already in the cloud. Then I say, OK, faster. Or maybe I say cheaper, right? Or I say that more secure. So you're going to have those different messaging pillars that will hit the different audiences as you speak. The last thing I want to say about routes to market is what are the channels you want to sell? Again, you'll work closely with your alliances team, your sales team. They probably are trying to go after lots of different channels. And I'll show you how Acme Cloud did it, which hopefully is interesting. You also want to make sure that, is it direct? I saw that 60% people said it's direct. So is it direct sales that you want to go after? Is it indirect, like through a channel, through a VAR, through a reseller, distributor? And then you want to understand, is it direct? Is it a push or a pull? Basically, are you pushing the products? Like, for example, like grocery stores, you try to push and fill the shelves. Or is it a pull model? Are you waiting for people to search for content, and then you serve up these products? And then finally, you want to say, is it a vertical product or horizontal? It cannot be everyone is a persona, right? Maybe you want to target finance because they are the early adopters. Maybe you want to go after retail because your product fulfills a particular a place in which you have data warehousing for retail customers. Maybe you want to go after like defense because you're a cybersecurity product. So you want to make sure that you have these different routes to market. And channel does not work across all these routes, right? Your channel might be dependent on which kind of horizontal or vertical place are you going after. And finally, B2B or B2C. You want to make sure that you also have that awareness. Are you selling directly to your users, like Facebook or Instagram? Or are you doing it to the enterprises that service other users? So let me show you how we did it at Acme. It was a multifaceted GTM plan, GTM route to market. So the first, we started with direct sales. Great. You have your field sales, you have your global sales, regional, you have your inside sales, you have an overlay, right, like specialists. Then you want to have specialized folks, right, your GTM partners. You want to make sure that you have special, is it me? Is it me? Oh, OK. 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 Maybe you want to partner, say, for example, for cybersecurity, what we did was we went after the cyber insurance channel. We went after legal firms because a lot of customers come and ask them, hey, how do I make sure that I'm secure? So they would then recommend Acme Cloud. The other thing is channel. Again, giving you that reach that you need in order to scale and go after different geographies. And also make sure that when these resellers are selling, they're also bundling it as solutions. So you actually increase customer stickiness. Then as you get more to the left side, you actually see, is it my right or your right? OK. As you go more, you want to see that the differentiation increases, right? You have your OEM partners. You want to have your managed service providers. So what they do is they bundle up solutions, and they sell it as a whole in the market.
Switch up.
It's up? Oh, thank you. And last but not least, how many of you have heard of product-led growth? Awesome. PMA is doing its job. So product-led growth, yes, it's a growing field, and Acme Cloud also wanted to get into it through e-commerce. So we have free trials. Again, the philosophy behind this, when you think about it, is making money when your sellers are sleeping, right? Your sellers cannot be on the go 24/7. You want to make sure customers are able to discover their products. They're able to try it. Like trials are very, very critical because POC is a handheld trial experience when you think of it. But you want to have the trial where they're organically discovering products and trying out. And then you also want to make sure you have these freemium offers. Again, it's a very SaaS term. You want to give them like a 15-day trial, like a teaser, and just see that if they get hooked on to your product. How many of you have all 5? Whoa, OK. How many of you have 4 out of the 5? That's a nice percentage, actually. So you do have a differentiated route to market when you think about your GTM. So when you think back
to your propositions. When you think back to your target audience, you want to make sure that you keep these routes in market back of your mind, because is it through channel or is it direct? Is it through other technology partners? You want to make sure that you always keep that at the back of your mind. The other thing you also might want to think about is, where are you in terms of your product adoption life cycle, right? You want to make sure that, are you marketing to the innovators, or are you marketing to the laggards, right? And that's where you would think about your marketing mix. Your marketing mix is your way of communicating to the customers based on your product adoption life cycle, and based on the fact that you know your target audience and the segments and all those things, all the homework has been done before. You also want to make sure that what kind of mix you have, like it could be top of the funnel. Again, if you're playing buzzword bingo, you have your funnel conversations going on. Basically, it is top of the funnel, whether you're trying to build up awareness or branding reputation. Or are you trying to really reach the market in terms of getting more leads? Is it your demand gen problem? Or are you trying to make sure that there are more conversions with demos and more hands-on technical collateral for your customers? So for Acme Cloud, what we did was a simple framework. Again, this is from Serious Frameworks. It is basically based on the fact that you have different tiers. Again, it's a wordy chart, I apologize. But then so is reporting at every month as to how your marketing is performing, right? You want to make sure you have your AR and PR covered. You want to have executive comms. You want to have your leaders go and socialize and talk the same message. You want to make sure when you have your demand gen activities, you're hitting all channels like webinars, content syndications, events, field activities. And then when it comes to customers, you're actually soliciting customer testimonials and case studies and all those other good stuff. Now let's go on to our pricing strategy, my favorite topic actually, because it is really hard to get good pricing, and sometimes it's just a finger in the wind and seeing what happens, right? You just start somewhere. When you think about your SaaS products, there could be multiple pricing options. It could be freemium, like I mentioned. You give them free for some time, and then the billing is basically delayed billing. Or you do a flat rate. You just say, OK, you're consuming it every month. I don't care how much you're consuming. You pay me $5 every month. I keep making sure that it's recurring on your credit card. And how many of you haven't canceled those subscriptions that you're not watching? That's like flat rate. I know how it feels. It's something that keeps getting charged on your credit card. Or maybe it is consumption-based, like your cloud providers, right? You want to make sure that only what you consume, you pay for that. Whatever you're using, you pay for that. So pay-as-you-go kind of pricing. Or it could be a tiered pricing model. Like you could say that if you have this many volume, I will charge you this much. If it is more tiered, of course, you give more credits or discounts based on when they move up the tiers. So you have different kinds of pricing strategies as well. And also the product introduction phase, you can maybe do promo codes, discounts, or you could actually do things like vouchers, or the other thing was basically credits and things like that. For example, for Amazon, when you start running more and more instances on them, they start giving you back credits because you're consuming more. So at Acme Cloud, this is what we did. We started with direct sales pricing. Very simple, contract-based, subscription-based, yearly pricing model. If the customer buys like 1,000 units, you charge for 1,000 units. So defining the unit is very critical when you're thinking of your pricing strategy. You want to make sure that you hit the right quantity and the right tiers for your customers. The next thing we did was a discount strategy. How am I giving discounts without giving up my margins, without giving up my COGS? Again, the strategy itself could be different. You could do penetration or skimming or value-based pricing, cost plus. It is a separate art by itself. But when you do it, you also want to make sure that how do you make sure you get and land customers and bring them through the door right off the bat? How do you give discounts, make them feel that it is actually critical to buy these products and also affordable? The next thing we did was channel-based pricing. Again, remember, every region has different channels. They have different pricing structures. How do you make sure you give discounts that are applicable to your channel? And again, within channel, we also tier them out. Like the better partners get better discounts, so that is an incentive for them to grow up the ladder to get better discounts. And then finally, We also have our self-serve model. Your Google share or your Apple share that you're buying, your LinkedIn and all that, when you buy it, they actually give you some kind of pricing mechanism with some free trial and making sure that you have a self-serve pricing. And in fact, when I was talking to my expert in the company, they were talking about how you have to make the price $19.99 in order to make it attractive. Maybe there's a science involved. There is a science involved, right? You want to make it less than $1. So actually, we ended up pricing some of it to make it more e-commerce friendly. The final thing that I've always seen is very difficult is operational readiness. How do you make sure that all your stakeholders are educated, they know what's coming, even if it's like new people coming and getting onboarded, how do you make sure they're aligned? How do you make sure that they're enabled in terms of sales, right? Because 99% of the times, 99 times it's happened that you have this event, you have this launch coming, and then the seller is like, okay, what are we launching? What's the product? So we tell them the product. I've never heard of this, right? Somewhere along the line, something is broken, right? And then when you think of your channel, again, going back to that route, they're like, you didn't tell us this was coming. We were not prepared. We have to make a lot more adjustments to make sure we accommodate this new product. How do you make sure your communication stands when you're bringing in new products? Or it could be an M&A strategy or acquiring new companies. How do you make sure that everyone is enabled and reading off the same music sheet? So for that, we have a small, again, it is all very, very process-oriented. You want to make sure that you identify all the scopes and resources that you need for launching the product. It could be tiger teams, scrums, war rooms. You call it by different names. It is basically getting everybody in the same room or on the same Zoom, making sure you tell everyone that this is happening, right? And then identifying who the owners are. You want representation from sales and support, legal, finance. You want to make sure your product management and marketing functions are along for the ride as well. Then you come up with the plan. So we have a 20 or 30 line item for a GTM plan, making sure that we cover off our bases in terms of identifying right from the personas and market research all the way down to launch plans and pre-briefing your media and analyst relations. The next thing you want to do is process alignment. Again, most of the times what happens is you launch this new product, the sales CRM folks are like, we don't have the product listed for the sellers to quote. Has this happened to anyone? Okay. It is a very interesting problem. Does product marketing own it, or is it someone else? Again, making sure you cross off that from your list, right? I always make sure that I tell my sellers, hey, this product is coming. I tell my sales ops guys so that they can add it to their Salesforce or CPQ, whatever they use. We then tell our SDRs, our inside sellers, making sure that they have nurture tracks planned for the launch. Actually, we give them the template. And then we want to also make sure that if you have any marketplaces on which you're listing products, those are updated. We had actually launched so many products, but then found out that our cloud marketplace listing, like on Amazon and Azure, did not list some of them. So guess what? I own them now. I have to go and make sure that they're up to date, the pricing is matched, the taxes are confirmed, and the T&Cs, the terms and conditions, are also taken care of. So be careful what you wish for, I guess. The next thing is internal communication channel, right? Do you use Slack? Or do you, actually, for the business process alignment, do you guys use like Asana or Monday or any of those process, PM? Yeah? Those are good? Okay. We use Asana too. It's really good. And then for internal communication, again, your Slack, your email, Zoom recordings, your wiki page, Confluence, making sure it's up to date so that everything is in one place, right? And then the sellers probably have some LMS. You want to make sure that you update LMS as well. So it is a lot of updating, but that goes before launch. And once you're done with the launch, then comes the metrics, right? How do you measure success? Is it a successful GTM? Do you see media pickups? Do you see more events happening, more people signing up for your webinars? Do you see revenue bump? Do you see attributions for your product go up? And that's where the ongoing planning and the metric reporting, all that comes into play. So for that, what we do is success metrics, identifying your success metrics. Again, different departments, I think someone touched on this before I did. Different companies or teams do it differently. It could be sales metrics, right? Very easy. I think most of you answered revenue. I'm happy with my revenue, I'm done. But you're not going to hit revenue on day one, right? Especially if it's a new product. What are the other metrics you can say? You could say, hey, I had some POCs. I had 20 POCs convert from 100 POCs, right? How do I increase the number of POCs, or how do I increase the conversion rate? I had 500 people take free trials, right? Now you have to have that vision as to where the metrics start failing, or sorry, where the people start falling off. For that, you need metrics at every single stage. Marketing, again, number of pieces of content, someone mentioned that. Then you have your pipeline, right? We do a very, very aggressive pipeline roll-up by region. Like every region is different. You want to have a pipeline roll-up. You want to see what your marketing MQLs are. Because one of the events we did, it was in New York, I think during the heat wave, they opened up the doors and we got around 8,000 leads. Excellent, right? But 8,000 was just people off the floor, off the streets coming in because they opened up the floors. So you want to make sure that you have those qualified leads, and you want to see how they convert into your sales qualified leads. And then we also track through the stages. Like if you guys follow from opportunity stage 0 to 7, how does it track as the customer moves through the different pieces of the opportunity? So at Acme Cloud, what we did was we had multiple metrics. The main was marketing, right? You have your share of voice, you do press releases, you do paid media. How do you make sure you have share of voice in the market? Then we also do SEO ranking. For example, so we are in a crowded market, cloud, right? Everyone does cloud. How do you make sure that you're on the first page, first 2 or 3 rankings of the top? So we have reporting on SEO. And then we have campaign performance. Again, most of you know this because we live and breathe it. You run campaigns, how many registered, how many showed up, how are we nurturing them, who clicked on those emails. Then we have sales metrics. What's your recurring ARR? What's your ACV, TCV, net new ACV, how many customers, and things like that. Then we have our channel metrics, right? You cannot let them off, right? Because you're giving them access to all your content and products. You want to make sure that they follow up with metrics as well. What is the growth of the channel? How many channel partners were onboarded? How did they perform, right? What by region? And what was the partner influenced, partner sourced? If you have it on cloud marketplaces, we do partner sourced. And then finally, the product metrics. This is actually very interesting. Our finance team tracks this. It's basically the lifetime acquisition value of a customer. And then we also track how many people took trials, how many people did conversions, and what was a feature retention rate, right? For example, we have APIs. I don't know if you guys know. We have features in the product, and we always track out of the 1,000 customers, how many people are using which feature. And where do we see propensity to convert into a cross-sell module? So we always track that for the product as well. So that brings me to the final slide, GTM execution. You have the pieces of the plan. You have the 7 elements. How do you make sure from a marketing angle you have a quick flow chart, right? I know I'm out of time, but I don't want to take too much. So this is kind of everywhere from the market analysis, right, to the launch, and monitoring and adjusting your launch criteria. You want to make sure that you find out who your buyer personas are. You want to find out who your personas are, and then you want to make sure that you have time to execute in the market. This is a sample timeline. I always like to give my product teams like a 4-month lead time, just because there are so many things in the GTM that we want to execute. But guess how much I get? I get probably 1 month. So let me leave you with some key takeaways, right? A GTM alignment is really, really critical for your product launch. Keep reminding yourself of the 6 questions. the who, what, how, why, when, and where. Make sure you adopt some kind of framework. It is really consistent and scalable as you get into all different kinds of products, features, services, M&A. These frameworks will really help you as you scale your company and bring new people on board across your cross-functional teams. And finally, for the execution, you want to make sure that you have these timelines, the right metrics. You keep calculating at each stage how these metrics are performing. That way, you're able to reach the right product to the right audience at the right time with the right channel. So thank you with that.
Thanks, Janani.
That was a lot of content. And it is lunchtime. I'm sorry, you guys.
So it's actually not lunch, so
Oh,
don't feel like you need to get up and run to lunch. There's one more session before
Okay.
lunch, just so everyone knows.
Good. You never want to go first. You don't want to go last. You don't want to go before lunch or after lunch. There are too many things.
So we're tight on time, but we'll do a couple questions, just because I know we've got a few in here. So top one here, what is the most important tool that you use to ensure success for a product post-launch?
We use something like Domo cards. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Domo. It's basic, or Tableau, or some kind of dashboarding to make sure you visualize your product adoption. We also use Marketo and Salesforce, basically to make sure that you're tracking your pipeline and all those good stuff. So campaigns is one thing. Your finance team uses, my finance team uses Domo. So there are a lot of different tools we use to track the success.
Nice. Awesome.
Oh, and we get reports as well for share of voice. So that is really good. 7 media pickups, 15 briefings, that always, you feel the impact directly and as soon as your product launches.
Love that. Okay, last question here, but I can see there's a number of questions. Johnny, you're going to be around lunch. People come find you, ask you some questions. Awesome. How do you partner with product managers on a go-to-market strategy without there being too many cooks in the kitchen?
I wish there were too many cooks in the kitchen. It's sometimes you feel like as product marketers, you're like handed the hot potato and everybody backs off because you're responsible for making sure the message resonates. You make sure that the content, I had a person say, hey, where's the content? Where's the content? It happens more often than you know. Because you launch everything, they're like, we don't know this happened, we don't know about the content, right? But the product managers, we work really closely because they do a lot of work up front and trying to find out what the use case is and what the feature sets are, what the customer requirements are. That really helps us craft our positioning messaging documents. It really is useful.
Awesome. Everyone, give it up for Janani. Thank you.